You hear the word Bitcoin, and what comes to mind? Probably things like digital gold, super secure transactions, a whole new financial world with no one in charge. But how secure is it really? Let's crack this open and see what's actually going on behind Bitcoin's biggest promises.
So, this is the big promise, right? The pitch you always hear. A financial system that's completely safe from attack, where no single person or government can mess with your money. I mean, it's an incredible idea, and it's why so many people are drawn to it.
But is it really like that? That's the big question we're going to dig into. How well does Bitcoin actually live up to that revolutionary promise? Well, the answer, it's a lot more complicated than you might think.
So, before we can even talk about the cracks in the armor, we've got to understand what that armor is supposed to do in the first place. What is Bitcoin actually trying to achieve? Okay, so it really boils down to these three huge ideas. First, it's got to be secure from hackers. Second, it has to be decentralized, meaning no one person or company can just flip a switch and turn it off. And third, and this is the part that's kind of wild, it's supposed to be trustless. The whole system is designed so you don't have to trust anyone. It should work perfectly even if every single person using it is just looking out for number one. At least, that's the theory. Okay, so that's the dream. Now let's talk about the reality, starting with the very first big challenge to that whole decentralization idea, mining pools. So if you're not deep in the crypto world, you should know that trying to mine Bitcoin on your own is next to impossible. It's like trying to win the Powerball every 10 minutes. So what do miners do? They team up in these things called mining pools. They all hook their computers together, combine their power to get a better shot at solving a block, and then they split the reward. Makes sense, right? But it creates a whole new dynamic. And this is the crucial part. A mining pool isn't just a digital free-for-all. There's a central coordinator running the show. This coordinator is the one who decides which transactions get included in the next block. And when the pool wins a reward, they're the one who hands out the profits. All of a sudden, this system that's designed to be decentralized has a central point of control, someone you have to trust. And that little bit of centralization, well, it opens the door to the most famous, most feared threat to Bitcoin's entire security model. This is it. This is the magic number, the tipping point where everything we think about Bitcoin's security can just completely fall apart. So, what's so special about this number? It's basically the golden rule of Bitcoin's security. The network is only safe as long as the good guys control more than half of the total computing power, the hash rate. A 51% attack is what happens when one bad actor, or a group working together, gets control of more than half the network. So, what's the worst-case scenario here? What can an attacker actually do? Well, in the world of Bitcoin, the longest chain of blocks is always considered the one true history. So an attacker with 51% of the power can go off and secretly build their own, longer version of the blockchain. Imagine they spend some Bitcoin on the public chain. They buy a fancy car. Then they suddenly release their secret, longer chain where that purchase never even happened. Poof! They get to keep their coins and the car. That's called double spending. But oh, it gets worse. A 51% attacker can cause all sorts of chaos. They could just refuse to include your transaction in their blocks, basically kicking you off the network. They could censor specific people or even start extorting users, saying, hey, pay me a huge fee or your transaction is never going through. They become the ultimate gatekeeper. All right, I know what you're thinking. This sounds terrifying. But is this just some theoretical boogeyman that crypto people worry about, or is this a real practical threat? Oh, it is very real. Now, it hasn't happened to the main Bitcoin network, but other smaller cryptocurrencies have absolutely been hit. Back in 2020, a crypto called Bitcoin Gold got hit with a 51% attack, and the attackers successfully pulled off a $70,000 double spend. So yeah, the theory has definitely been put into practice. Okay, so what would it actually cost to pull this off on the main Bitcoin network? Well, the numbers are just astronomical. An attacker with over 50% control could rake in over $66 million a day just from normal mining rewards. But the cost to get that much computer power in the first place is absolutely immense. Zoom out for a year, and you're looking at a potential haul of over $24 billion. The sheer size of that number just shows you how much money you'd need to even attempt this. It's a huge barrier to entry. And yet, despite that massive cost, take a look at this. This chart shows us where the mining power was concentrated in late 2023. The number one pool, Foundry USA, had 30%. The number 2 pool, Ant Pool, had about 26%. Do the math. Together, that's over 56%. So while one single person might not be able to do it, all it would take is a friendly phone call between the people running just 2 mining pools, and they could have majority control over the entire Bitcoin network. But here's the thing. You don't always need a sledgehammer to break a lock. There's a much sneakier, more clever strategy that doesn't even need that 51% majority. It's called selfish mining, and it's basically a way for a miner to game the system to get more rewards than they're supposed to, just by not playing by the normal rules.
Okay, check this out. It's actually pretty clever. An honest miner, on the left, finds a block and immediately tells the whole world, hey, I found one. But a selfish miner, on the right, does something different. When they find a block, they keep it a secret. They don't tell anyone. Instead, they immediately start trying to find the next block, building on top of their secret one. This gives them a massive head start, and it makes all the honest miners waste their computer power on a chain that's about to become obsolete. It's a slick way to get an unfair edge.
So where does all this leave us? We've talked about 51% attacks, selfish miners. What happened to that big promise of a truly trustless system? Well, the biggest argument against these attacks isn't some fancy code. It's pure, simple economics. The thinking goes, why would a super powerful miner attack the network? If they did, everyone would lose faith, the price of Bitcoin would crash, and they'd destroy the value of their own coins and all their expensive mining gear. They have a massive financial incentive to just play by the rules.
And that, right there, is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The entire security of Bitcoin seems to boil down to us hoping that a handful of very powerful groups will choose to act honestly because it's in their own best financial interest. So if the whole system depends on us trusting them to be rational, can we really call it trustless at all? That's the paradox right at the very heart of Bitcoin.